Righty, hello, I am Tristen Fry, the writer and director on Frankenstein in College, and this is my director's commentary for the picture. I am a bit unfamiliar with how the whole director's commentary thing works from what I watch of movie bonus features, but I feel as I'll go scene by scene throughout these movies that I do, and I pretty much make comments on what certain parts were like, and how I directed them. So this opening scene right here was very fun to film for me. This is the only thing I acted in. Notice how I don't blink once? I wanted to give a very specific, melancholy, sort of grieving tone when I said this. So it would lay a foundation of depressing and overall just sorrow to open the movie, similar to the original opening to Frankenstein. And actually, the only line difference, proper difference and change from the original film is that I missed the line, deals with two great mysteries of life, creation and death, something like that. And then it would have cut to this, the nice, happy, colorful opening scene to Walk of Life by Dire Straits. Beautiful song. I heard it and went, I have an idea. This scene was meant to be filmed like morning time, but with how scheduling got the last little while of production, we only were able to film this actually as the sun was setting. So how we filmed this was thinking that that's why he opens with a yawn, is to set in that this is a like early morning. He's getting to an early morning class, and you think about it, it works. I was hoping we'd film it, on a morning time, actually when classes were changing out around our campus, which we filmed this at. So there would be more background people, because the backdrops feel very empty. Because I wanted there to be a contrast with this and the scene of when the monster breaks out later in the movie. I'll pinpoint that when I get to that. When we filmed this scene here, it was very interesting to do this one, because we shot this 2 days before the movie release, this very scene here. But then the other part, a day before. So this classroom scene here with Harry, Clerval, and Vector was 2 days before. And then this with Professor Waldman, which I've realized her name is never said in the movie. Her name is, Professor Waldman, one of Frankenstein's favorite professors from the original book. And they were filmed on separate days because we couldn't get the actors all together at once. And I think that's sort of what led to the editing being a bit janky here. I feel the scene still works. Yeah, we had plans to have someone else actually be Professor Waldman, a professor we have at our school, who is very punny. He makes a lot of pun jokes. That was the idea with that. We wanted someone who gives that energy. That's what I wanted. I wanted to have a happy-go-lucky teacher energy. Ultimately, we had Lillian play the role because the teacher couldn't make it. And ultimately, we worked pretty well with it. Lillian was phenomenal.
Oh, well, looks like everyone has their groups, except Harry and Vector. Groups of 3, please.
You can see the lighting rig's reflection on the whiteboard back there, to the right. And this was another thing that happened last minute. We couldn't get Gabe out down to filming that day. And this is sadly what happens when we make a production. We get nearing the end, we start to have to miss something, because I normally don't cut my losses and say, I'm going to be willing to wait this out so we can get this done to the perfect idea that I had with the screenplay. Which is probably why the latest scenes that we filmed ultimately is where the quality of them kind of went down a little. Because this scene here was the last scene we filmed. And I feel this is probably the worst shot, worst edited, worst part of the movie in my opinion. It's slow, it's a bit of a drag. And ultimately, there was a lot of lines of dialogue that had to be cut because Gabe couldn't be there, but that was something we worked on.
You'll get the catastrophe trophy.
We are winning.
Vector was a character I tried to have him be first ever complex character I've ever written for a movie I've done. And ultimately, I didn't really think about how the acting would have portrayed him, because truth be told, when an actor sees a screenplay that you write, they don't look at it and go, I know exactly what you want and how to do it. I have to explain it to them thoroughly, and on set, most of the time I actually reenact the exact scene to the way I want it to, because I think that's the best way to demonstrate it, and then I go little details as we film.
Let's start instantly.
The AirPod in Vector's ear was entirely improvised by Kasten because he likes listening to music, and it fits his character of being a bit of a narcissist, so I said, oh, we'll keep it. This scene here was this is one of the ones where I really wanted to push my comedy-oriented thing. I had to move all the nerdy stuff as much as I could out of my room, and that lamp there is actually controlled using a power adapter, which the switch was controlled by my toe. It was just me and Kasten in my room. Because I wanted to have the moment where it's the wide opening shot and then close up, and there would have been some sort of dramatic build-up music, which I forgot editing. Oh. Editing this movie, fun fact. I finished editing the movie 2 hours before the premiere of the movie, so.
You got the whole evil scientist look going.
Nope.
This here is the first scene we ever filmed. You can see in the cauldron here, there are movie posters. That's because Kasten brought Blue Beetle posters, which is left over from his work, to give to all of us cast, say, congratulations, we've started filming.
No.
This ultimately wasn't meant to be the introduction to Igor, but ultimately ended up being that, and I think it works really well. You can see the lighting rig there in the right. The red backpack with the lighting rig, that's my equipment bag.
Like starting a jumper car.
Is that why there's jumper cables?
Igor, flip the switch.
Got it, coach.
I ultimately wanted to adapt Igor in a bit more of an interesting light, because he's normally just the henchman. He doesn't really have much anything interesting to him. And I wanted to, really go out with the college aesthetic and have him be the college athlete. That was the whole idea. And having him be kind of stupid, and he's just in the class because he has a full ride scholarship. Pretty funny, I'd say.
Like this.
Screen, smoke. There was originally meant to be a proper Frankenstein lever, but I couldn't find one that was within our budget range for this movie. So it just had to be a normal light switch. There's Benny, our skeleton, in the background. This thing with the burger wasn't necessarily something I really thought a lot about, but when I got to writing the scene, I pre-write, so I write each scene with basic descriptions, so then I know what I want, I refine it, then I do the full screenplay. I didn't end up doing revisions on Frankenstein in college, because ultimately I felt I was pretty proud of what it ended up being, the finalized screenplay. There were some small changes on set, though. But so there were some things when I was writing, I'm like, I have the perfect idea. There was only one extra scene that I added while I was writing that I didn't plan to have in the pre-writes.
Wendy's? What?
All right. And another thing, and one of the biggest compliments I got from making this movie was the camera work and the cinematography.
I need you.
I personally handled the camera in this movie compared to our previous project, Mission Impossible, where most of the time it was on a tripod. And we did have the tripod with us while we were filming, but I never ultimately used it a whole ton. I instead was behind the camera managing it myself, and that's because I imagined this film would have more movement to it. And this film was also filmed on an iPhone compared to the Canon camera that Mission Impossible was, which was for the better. The focusing and all that is far better because I did not know how to work a Canon camera. This scene here, when I showed this movie for the red carpet, a lot of people just took this as a funny, happy-go-lucky montage. But what I was trying to accomplish with this was to showcase the differences between Victor Frankenstein and Harry Clerval as scientists. Both see that wonder in science, and the song Quantum Mechanics by Ludwig Göransson from the Oppenheimer soundtrack kind of what set the tone for this scene, where it's just the wonder of science. And both of them are both studying, working on their own things, but as they evolve, Harry's the one who starts to show more regret, more intimidation, realizing of the consequences the consequences of his actions. In comparison to Vector, who's more all for it and loving and supportive of the idea of kind of just going to an extreme. it's because I wanted to demonstrate a difference between two scientists, because the whole message is on going too far. And Harry is the one who can see the consequences and think of what they might be. And you can see my iPad in the background connected to the microphone. Alright, the brain breaking scene. I love working on this one. All those different brands had like individual reports. My personal favorite is the protein shake brand. The note, I remember it saying like, A+, it is drinkable. And you can see here there's Igor's voice. And Gabe wanted to have the whole voice for the entire production, for the whole movie. But I decided against it because it's a bit too quiet for the microphone to catch up. So instead, it is about the... It's more so he was just sneaking in and being silent because, you know, he should have been. This scene we added while we were on set as I was thinking about how the previous scene and this would have connected. I wanted to have something that sort of shows that, you know, how the brain was put in. I remember in other Frankenstein movies, the brain is, they get the brain.
And you built them exactly
Igor gives it to, like, takes it, steals it, but then it's never shown being put in. And so I wanted to sort of include that. I feel that's a good introduction shot, makes it more connected. I give a lot of comparisons from the original book to the movie, like how there was a line about digging in the graveyard, and in the movies it was about digging in the graveyard, and in the book it was something different.
Since our humble beginnings, as feeble students,
this line of dialogue here was a bit hard for Tristen to execute. It's a lot to memorize, and if you can see, he's clearly looking to the side of the camera where I have the screenplay held up, and he's just reading it off.
We claim nature.
And it was inspired by the speech which Victor gave in Young Frankenstein, Mel Brooks' phenomenal Frankenstein comedy.
I wonder what this does.
We took this one shot like 15, I think, times, because it was, I wanted to have it be timed just right, to where Gabe would like look at it and then like pause, then slowly look up as he heard the thunder. When I introduced the black and white to the movie, normally it was just seen as in a comedic way, like with the brain, and in the opening scene it was just kind of there. But here with this black and white shot, it's meant to really demonstrate that the monster is now alive, and the monster depletes color from the frame.
It's alive! It's alive!
And actually, this rise here is meant to be a POV of the monster, and it's meant to sort of showcase how the monster's perspective can't see light or color, can't see color. It can't see color, it's a dark world to it. A new world to it. It was me trying to visually give character, and it's further explored more throughout the movie. I wanted to think a lot on what the shots meant. When we were filming this day, Tristen was like 2 hours late to filming. And he didn't have breakfast, so he came in and he was munching down on those ramen noodles.
Whoa, did you get any sleep?
I never, in my previous projects where I referenced coffee, I always referred to it as hot chocolate. But this was my first one where I genuinely referred to it as coffee. And I was actually going to get Tristen coffee, which he probably would have liked. I personally don't drink coffee, but I know he is okay with it. But then ultimately, we're just going to do chocolate milk because that would be funny to refer to it as caffeine. Of course, the introduction shot to Toby, who played a wonderful monster. When it came to directing him about how to play the monster, I tried to illustrate it in a way where he'd walk with a bit of a limp, with a bit of a stiffness.
I have an idea. Cat!
And then there's this portion here where he can mimic any voice he's told. But it's in a way where it's like it's hurling out of him without any choice. He can't choose to do this.
My coach says.
And it's about him really just not being normal. it's in a way where he won't be accepted for it. I wanted to demonstrate that story from the original book by Mary Shelley, where the monster stalks on that family and wants to be accepted by them. And really, I wanted to have that be implemented into this story. I wanted the monster to be a bit more menacing, a bit more intelligent, and a bit more terrifying.
Dude, you need to calm down. Are you kidding? He messed with my creation. He put an abnormal, not normal
brain. Benny in the background there.
I created this thing with my own truth.
Yeah. The ideal was that the monster would be, whenever it's in the shot, the whole shot's in black and white, because it's that drain of color. It's that loss of life. Life will no longer be special once we know how to just start replicating it in this way, where we can control it.
Don't treat it as anything more. Look, we don't know what
that was sort of the idea with that.
The biggest mistakes of our lives creating that. But look at it.
It's a lonely creature in an alien world.
Beautiful, but it's not perfect. It's not good enough.
The chocolate milk part. I try and always have it so Toby looked larger than anyone else in frame, and those few shots with Gabe were really difficult because, funny enough, Gabe is the tallest out of everyone except Brock, and then Toby is actually the shortest. So it had to position him so he'd be more in front. And ultimately, if you look at it and you know that's what it is, you'll see it. But I think it works really well.
I'm winning that trophy this week.
Oh, shoot. I forgot to say that there's a home game tonight.
Ooh, yes, great way to get you out of the lab. Come on, let's go.
Lighting rig once again to the right. Oh, goodness. I gotta improve it. I got a lot of improvements to work on. And in here, I love the incorporation of the violin as an instrument. I ultimately did a lot of the music on GarageBand, like the night before release, and edited it in. And whenever the monster sort of had these moments of contemplation or thinking, I wanted to have a violin string, but it's distorted. So it's like his own thoughts are distorted. And they're not right. It's not human, after all. And I love the shots, which I did of Toby here. I feel this one thing goes maybe a bit too long. And the lighting, I'm so happy about that lighting rig for this film. The lighting, I feel, is a definite improvement.
We lost.
Yeah, it's because they didn't have me.
Stop. Wait.
You can see the lamp in the right and the reflection, but then in the later shot, you can see the lamp, it like doesn't have the shade on, and it's just wrecked.
The monsters ravaged the lab.
I'm just gonna, the violin distortion comes in.
Find him.
And those notes are, I wrote like, I think 16 pages worth of notes, and all of them are the monster learning to read and write and like do all this complicated
It
stuff.
can't be intelligent. It's
Like, I actually wrote down some of my calculus notes and used them. It's meant to showcase that there's the lamp. It's meant to showcase that the monster has learned
we
to
gotta find it. We gotta tell Campus.
be stronger,
No.
be smarter, figure things out.
No.
Demonstrate that rise in intelligence, and with it being an abnormal brain means it probably could have learned faster. But this intelligence from something that isn't necessarily human or has humane values is interesting. This shot right here, I was sitting in a chair and had Brockton pull me back, and I actually filmed this on a different lens. I normally use the exact same standard iPhone lens, but I used the 0.5 lens for this one shot, and it gave it just a weird sense of distortion. It made Vector look small. And here's that scene I was talking about where it contrasts with Vector's opening walking scene. It's dark and gloomy, and it's empty. I wanted the opening scene with Vector to be full of people, full of life. So there's a difference in how these characters are. I wanted to pull a contrast between creator and creation. This scene here is pretty much my take on the mix of Frankenstein, the monster meeting the little girl in the movie, and when he's stalking the family in the book.
Yeah, no, we should totally invite Valen over. That's a great
And I wanted to have... I love this one shot where Toby stands up, and just the reflection of light, like, he looks so sad there. And he just wants to be, you know, accepted. But then that one thing, one of his abnormal attributes, that says train, and he forcefully makes a train noise without his will, it's where he won't be accepted because he's a monster. And there's a plan I had, actually, with editing, is I wanted to have the monster have glowing like eyes. So whenever like a light is shine on it, it would reflect back. It would reflect back, similar to how like dogs, how their eyes are. And I thought that could have made him a bit more intimidating, but I ultimately never got around to getting that to look right. And here he is drawn in by the Transylvanian Lullaby, created by John Morris for Young Frankenstein, and I spliced this with a lone violin version of it with a one made by Full Symphony by the New World Symphony. I felt the violin, as I said, is a very peaceful instrument, and here it's demonstrating peace coming to the monster. I feel that art is such a beautiful way to express without words. It's expressing with pictures. And this one art piece was actually made by a student who took a class with me in studio art. I was taking the class while we were filming, while we were under production. And then the symphony comes in as this one piece astounds him and reminds him of who he is. And for this one shot here, you can see that there is a little bit of color. And that's one of those POV shots of the monster, where he can now see color in this dark, colorless world through art. Art can capture emotion, and it captures it. But because it doesn't have humane values, it turns to vengeance upon its creator. And you see there's the back shot there, and then immediately cuts to this shot here with Tristen, Vector Frankenstein, in a colorful world, full of color and light, compared to the monster being in darkness. It's another one of my contrasts I was trying to do. The monster looked big in his, Vector looks small here. And this is Vector kind of realizing what he's done. I call this the consequences scene because he's thinking about the consequences of his actions. He's actually starting to contemplate the moral implications of what he did. He's a character who acts first, then thinks later. When Brockton, Harry Clerval, does the opposite.
Professor.
Aw, Mr. Frankenstein, I saw you submitted your work. Good job.
Zillion, yes!
No, not that. It's...
Here you can see he looked at the trophy for a second. It wasn't too clear. You can see the trophy there. But he looked at it for a second as it's like a momentary temptation to him. Then he's reminded of the gravity of the situation he has here.
Both have destroyed laboratories and classrooms. They both deny the
The
allegations.
dialogue here got a bit jumbled while we were filming because it's a lot to memorize as well. And I try and be more understanding to my actors. We're all high schoolers.
The college
But I feel the
system
message was still taken across pretty
was
well.
enough to convict. Both had their
And here you can
flaws.
see this is the only time in the movie where it changes from color to black and white gradually, because this is meant to demonstrate Vector it's really hitting him about what he's done. The consequences of it have finally hit him. He's abruptly taken out for a second by his teacher,
Class is starting, Frankenstein. Take your seat. I
but
gotta
then
announce the winner.
it's only for a second, because then when he goes to sit down, he's back to it. There's Benny in the background again, and there's of course one of our extras, one of our newer members. She's great. And you can see he actually changes positions
All
later.
right, class. Great job on your assignment.
I actually did forget the grapes that day. I forgot to check my prop list that morning when grabbing everything, because we filmed right after school.
But I'm glad
And here, I wanted to have
the winner of the trophy.
the monster sort of come in,
Electrifying.
and
See everything
Vector sort of shuns it and tries to focus away from it.
Someone who turned it into a little bit.
It's trying to just justify a feeling
Give credit where
to distract,
and
even though it was inevitable to be brought back to him.
team. Victor.
And then this is where I wanted to have a thing where the monster, I could have used a bit more exposition here, but the monster named himself Frankenstein after his creator as a way to mock him. The way he just walks over and shakes hands. If you notice, when they keep shaking, Toby, the monster, he really demonstrates how the unfamiliarity to human conditions. Because after, like, Professor Waldman takes her hands away, he just kind of keeps shaking it. You know, there's a stare-off between creation and creator. And that was a moment which I felt would be a good way to conclude the movie. It's the proper bringing together of those two arcs. And of course, Walk of Life returns. I love the song, and I don't know the words. Overall, working on this project was a blast. I tried to advance my directing, think about more what I was trying to say with things, and think about what the greater implications of everything was. Overall, so this is my film, Frankenstein in College. Had an absolute blast working on it. It was very successful too. Hope to see y'all again with our next project.